Nigel Ely, welcome to H Hour, buddy. Welcome to H Hour.
Thank you for the invite.
Yes, thank you for journeying down. I really appreciate it. And welcome back to the platinum subscribers who are watching this live. And for the we've had more since the icebreaker. We've had more questions into the YouTube chat, which we'll bring up at the end of the podcast. But we talked about a bunch of stuff in the icebreaker, and I recommend people go back and watch that. So I definitely want to cover later on in this when you were talking about there was like differences in the interactions and community between the wounded Falklands vets and the not wounded Falklands vets after that tour. I'd love to hear about that. I said I'd love to hear about it. It's just interesting to understand the dynamics going on there. It's the first I've heard of that. But first off, you were talking about the experience of basically having a bunch of conditions laid on you under law, travel restrictions and whatnot, and your home in Herefordshire being raided by the police.
Yeah.
When was that, and how does a situation like that come about for a decorated SAS veteran?
No good deed goes unpunished. Well, no deed goes unpunished in this instance. I was given a large chunk of the famous statue that was falling down in Furdor Square during the invasion or liberation of Iraq. Yes, went worldwide. I only wanted a small piece, like as a token, but the Marines gave me a big piece, and he said, "What piece do you want?" So I just pointed, and it happened to be his left buttock. And they came out with a sledgehammer and a disc cutter.
This is in the square at the time.
In the square, and we were being shot at. There was 50 cows. 50 cows were demolishing a building, and there was small arms fire all going over. But just before that, I went off into the square, as you do, because I was an unembedded journalist there, photo war journalist, and I wanted some pictures. And I saw this guy with a head on a trolley just outside the square, and he had a noose, hangman's noose round it. And I thought, I'm going to have a look at this. Is this the head? Because it was a headless statue of Saddam. So I went and saw the guy with the head, and it was the statue, because you know what these Arabs are like. They're a bit dodgy. It could have been a head off any statue. There was hundreds of statues in Iraq at the time. And no, I was pretty sure it was the one. And I had $165 on my person, strapped in a belt, in the collar, in my boots. And I thought, if I offer him $15-20, will he go for it? And I was sort of slowly bartering with this old boy. I still remember him now. He had no teeth, and then all of a sudden there was a strike, a small arms strike on the sidewalk, which hit the side of this building. And I heard these Marines shouting to me, come back in, come back in. And I thought, oh, shit, I want the head. And I was trying to negotiate while under fire.
Yeah.
And then the Marines were actually screaming, come and get it. So I just left it, ran back in. Got loads of pictures of this guy, though. And when I got back in, and the sort of firing died down, but it was still sporadic. This is when the Marines came out and said, do you want a piece? And I said, yeah, I'll have that. And he said, what? You want the ass of Saddam? And I said, yeah, give us that. And he cut me off a big piece.
What were the options, though? Apart from the ass?
There was a disc cutter and a crowbar. So I thought, go for it, go for the big one. What the hell I was going to do with it, I don't know. But then I thought, while the guys were still over at the Palestine Hotel, backslapping and high-fiving, there was still a massive threat, security threat with, because nobody had seen Saddam. He'd done a runner up north. And, there's a firefight going on, for Christ's sakes. And I thought, I've been in these situations far too often, and I just need to get the hell out of it. So what happened was I had one of these Jeeps that the Sheikh had given to me back in Kuwait. And he said to me, I said, Sheikh, I don't want this. This is far too good, this Cherokee Jeep. He said, no, Nigel, just sell it to the fucking Iraqi. I said, well, how am I going to get back? He said, just sell it, get me some money and all this. I said, no, don't be so daft. I'll bring it back the best I can. So anyway, I put the arse at the back seat with the rest of the sandbags, like a protection bullet catcher. And that's where it stayed until we sort of went back to the border A couple of days later, we've been in country 3 weeks. We screamed back to the border. I came out with Sky News, anchorman Sky News, Julian Thompson and a couple of camera crew, guy from the Sun newspaper, who ironically was the royal photographer for the Sun, but had screwed up, so they sent him to Iraq to cover the war. We got back there and we got arrested by the Kuwaiti police. And of course, some of the guys, Julian had an AK-47 mag and a picture of Saddam. Of course, they went up.
What did you get arrested for?
Well, because
For the kit.
for the kit,
Right,
yeah.
okay,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't. I was unaware of it. The guys had put all this crap back, and of course, they searched the vehicles. And I was like, oh, for Christ's sakes! And then it was, you can imagine when it's sort of like they're 55 degrees up there. It's absolutely scorching midday. And he starts going into my Jeep, and I said, sandbags. He said, what's this? What's this? And like, it was the arse. I said, oh, bullet catcher, Habibi, bullet sandbags. He went, oh, okay. You can imagine if I had the head strapped onto the, they would have taken that puppy right off, wouldn't they? So they let me through with it. After about several hours of the captain of the police, he kind of believed our story. He didn't think we'd been up to Baghdad. He thought we'd been to Basra or something. We come back and he plied us with like Coke and fresh fruits and, Coca-Cola, fresh fruit. It was kind of nice, air conditioning, beautiful, which we hadn't had for 3 weeks. We were absolutely chucking up as well. So he let us go. I made a call to the sheikh, and the sheikh eventually sort of said to the captain, come on, let these guys go. They let us go. And that was it for the time being. And I then thought, well, the story of the war had finished and I needed to get my copy out, and kind of wanted to get back to the UK, and I could always come back again because I had an apartment in Kuwait anyway. So I caught, after about a day, I caught the British Airways flight back to Heathrow. And then when with the arse, and I had this arse in I had to go down the local market to buy one of these big plastic suitcases to fit the thing in. I couldn't risk it being in a canvas one. It had to be one of these
It
plastic
must have
ones.
weighed a bit, that.
Yeah, it did weigh a bit. Yeah, it was 8 to 10 mil thick bronze. Actually, the inside of it is just as artistic as the outside because it's all effervescent.
Huh.
So I take this. Check my luggage in. I got this big suitcase. And I said, I've got some extra luggage. He said, oh, that'll be 300, or I can't remember the exact, £300 extra luggage, or 165, I think it was. He said, what's in it? I said, oh, Saddam's arse. He went, ha, 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 ha. £165, please. Didn't check it. And that was it. That's why I got it out. That was crazy, man. They were that bonkers. That trip was absolutely bonkers. Yeah.
Was how far into your journalism career was that then?
About a year and a half.
Not long then.
Yeah, not long. No, just the start of it, really.
That's a pretty good gig to get early on, isn't it?
Yeah. I interviewed the doctor. Al Nazariyah was the biggest battle they had during that part of the war. I don't know if your viewers will remember. There was a convoy of American logistics that went into Al Nazariyah, took a wrong turn in, got shot up. A lot of them killed. One girl survived, Jessica Leach. She was captured by the Iraqis. And there was rumor that she'd been raped and she'd been this, and then the special forces, the American Special Forces, Delta came in and rescued her. Well, I interviewed the doctor. I was the first person to interview the doctor. I got that scoop there. BBC weren't happy. And he was telling me that this was inside the hospital. I mean, she showed me where she was carried. The drip was still there. The bed was still there. There's blood on the floor. Like these combat hospitals are like. And he said, no, we didn't do anything. I don't know why you think we would. We're not animals, us Iraqis. And he seemed really genuine. Excuse me. And he said, I was a soldier. I was a medic in 1990, and he got captured and shot in Kuwait by the Americans, and the Americans looked after him. And he told me that story. And he's seen, I've been around the Middle East long enough to know that, you can get hold of people that you can understand the bullshit and not. And he seemed genuine to me. So that whole story was a bit, was a bit to get the troops wound up, and that was a massive thing with the Marines because they were hosting me and the Sky News team because we were at the forward element because Nick Parnell, the producer of the small unit we had the Throaya phone,
All right.
and in
Yeah.
order for us to advance right to the forward unit, we would let the troops use the phone. Which was in our day, even now, SOPs, no way would you do it.
Yeah.
But that got us forward and forward and forward. And that's how we got these scoops. I mean, we were right up front. I mean, it was crazy.
Oh, so you're basically cutting about on trying to, just pay people off, so to speak, but influence people to give you lifts places because you were there as an independent journalist,
I
right?
was there with the Independent, but
How did you get? Sorry.
Yeah.
How did you get out there as an independent? Now, I mean, even just getting into country.
Well, I lived in Kuwait. I had a resident. Yeah,
Ah, right.
yeah, and I took the opportunity to because I had business interests with the Sheikh. And I said to him, look, I want to go up. He said, you're mad. I said, I want to go to Baghdad. I want to cover this. This is going to be something special. So he supplied me with the vehicle and a bit of money and stuff. And we knew that through my contacts in Kuwait, and I said to Nick Parnell, the Sky guy, who I'd met in there, and he's a lovely guy, and the team were good guys. Nick had been around a bit. And I said to Nick, look, they're going to close Mutla Ridge. If you want to get to the border, they're going to close Mutla Ridge. Now, Mutla Ridge is a small mountain range just north of Kuwait City, basically what is a flatlands. So it's this large pimple. And it was where the retreating Iraqi army in 1991, yeah, let's get that right, were retreating up there. It's where the American Air Force shot them up. They were nicking all the Rolls Royces, the Ferraris, and there's famous picture. They called it Death Valley. This famous picture of all these burnt out Rolls Royces, Ferraris, army trucks, where the Americans and their A-10s had just come down and screened them and, shot shit out of them. Kind of really sad because I had a friend that was over there in 91 and he was part of the War Graves Commission.
Oh, yeah.
And he was putting these bodies in the holes. He said there were hundreds of them. But this is what it is. So that was the whole thing. So I said they're going to close Mutla Ridge. He said, how do you know that? I said, well, Sheikh's told me that, his contacts say they're going to close it. When are they going to close it? I said, well, if you're ready to go now, let's go now. So within a couple of hours, we were ready to rock and roll, and we went north. As we got to Mutla Ridge, all the police, early hours in the morning, this was, all the police vehicles were there, and I thought, right, I've got to really bluff my way here. And we go up there, and they're all sleeping, as they do.
Classic.
So we just slowly went by, and there's this one of the comms van had this big sort of sat link on the roof of it, like a transit van with a big bloody anti-aircraft gun on it, sort of thing. And we just went on through, and that was it. And Sheikh had a friend that had a farm up on a little farmhouse with a big Bedouin tent up on the border there. We stayed there for a whole week while they kicked back ITV News, they kicked back ITN, they kicked back BBC. BBC complained to the British ambassador in Kuwait to say, why are Sky News up there? And, well, they're not. And we did broadcast. Once in a while I didn't broadcast. Nick broadcast, so they would have got our heat signature for sure. But they were bitching. So we were the only ones. As soon as the invasion or the liberation happened, we just followed the smoke, and it was just incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
We did a recce to cross the DMZ, which was an area which was cleared by United Nations with big sand berms to designate a no-go zone for both Kuwait and Iraq. We found a breaching point that the Brits had breached previously, and we went through that. And I knew where Safwan Abdili was, which was the furthest northern border town in Kuwait. I knew that was to our left, so we headed for that. And as we were moving towards the left, these 3 Cobra gunships came out of nowhere. The Apache, but the U.S. Marines fly Cobra gunships, and they came in. like real menacing. One up at about 800, 1,000 feet. The other two stood back a bit. And oh my God. On my truck, I had a Stars and Stripes on the roof. On the Sky truck, they had the Union flag. And then we had these sort of MOD arrows that you had to put on your vehicles as well. And I just got out, hands up, let him know that I was okay. I said, oh my God. And then the 8-track, the cassette tape CD kicked in, and it was because the Sheikh had a load of these early sort of 80s, 90s. It was Johnny Hates Jazz.
Right.
Johnny Hates Jazz. And we're hanging out the window of this Jeep, pleading to this pilot, oh, don't, we're just dumb, stupid Brits, And then he came down and he did this sort of thing with his nose. And I thought, oh, here we go, vaporized. We're going to be vaporized even before the wars kicked off. And all they did was they sort of did that, and in unison, in like a ballet, air ballet, they turned off to the left and went to fly over Qassar, which was the port there. And that was our first sort of encounter, rude awakening of the war. But the whole story of Bring Me the Answer Saddam, it has encounters like that. It's so bonkers. It's just so crazy that I think if you took it to a production company, they wouldn't believe you. But isn't that non-fiction for you? I mean, there's a lot that you couldn't make this stuff up. That famous phrase.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been in similar positions.
Yeah.
You're like, you're a sniper. I mean, I've known people that, I've known somebody to turn left and a round's gone straight through there and cut them there, and that's it. They survive. I've seen someone get shot in the face with a 45, hit there, traverse round the back, and come out this ear.
What, off the cheekbone?
Off the cheekbone.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's some luck.
That's a big old slug as well,
some
isn't
luck.
it? I've been blown up and put back on my feet. My ears ringing.
Yeah.
I've been shot without knowing it. And it went straight into my webbing. And the only reason why I knew about it, this was in Goose Green, was I went to change mags, because you put your empty mags down your smock. You've got a big old thing there, and we had these LMG banana clips. And the one I went, because I was getting through them quite rapidly, I went to get my normal SLO, I pulled it out, spring, and I was like, oh. And then I didn't know I'd been shot. It broke the skin on my thigh until hours after, and it was absolutely stinging and a big old bruise. Little things like that.
Yeah.
Walled around, you sort of, what the fuck was that? Because you stopped or something, or you just turned your head, or it's just amazing. But wars are full of those stories, aren't they? And I always remember the First World War story. Somebody saved through a cigarette tin in his chest, or, an arrow gets shot and,
Or a Bible.
The
Bible,
yeah.
a Bible in his top left.
But I mean, I think these stories, somebody's sitting down, a scriptwriter, and making them up. I think they're just drawn from experience of previous wars. And I know they happen because it's happened to me and it's happened to my friends.
Yeah. What I think continuously surprises me is when you talk about things like this, and it prompts memories of my own, and I think how did why, and I think, oh my God, that was a bit crazy. Why didn't I think it was crazy at the time? These little bits, and I haven't done a fraction of the things you experienced, but there's those like near-death experiences or seeing others. That was totally normalized, and now I think that is absolutely batshit crazy. Like, if you told me that story now as a civilian and I had never been part of it, I wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't believe that story existed.
No, and I wouldn't believe myself from the stories. I just would not believe it. You think, what?
Yeah.
My Goose Green book, which is my latest book, it's been out a couple of years ago. It's come out for the 40th anniversary of the Falklands War. I mean, God, dear. When we were sailing down on the 40th anniversary, we were sailing down. The 40th anniversary was of the Brunavor raid. Remember Para, that famous raid that Para conducted in the Second World War, stealing a German radar station. Excuse me. as we were sailing down south, the rear party in Tupara were hosting the 40-year anniversary of the Bruneville raid.
Mhm.
And you think, look back and go, my God. And yeah, and you just think 40 years, it's 42 years now, isn't it? 43 years. And there's some of the memories are still rigid there. Other things are not. And that became apparent when I spent 3 years going around the country, interviewing my old mates, people, merchant navy, so all arms, to know, to get their stories about Goose Green, beginning, middle, and the end. What are they doing now? So the book Goose Green is about 114 interviews. I interviewed over 200, but you've got to cut them down. A lot of the stories rolled over each other, but some of the stories in there are just absolutely incredible. There was one with we were on Wireless Ridge because Tupara were the only battalion to fight two battles, Goose Green, and then we fought Wireless Ridge. And they hit us with the 155 howitzers, which, as you know, are the big cannons. And Duke Allen was he was a transport platoon, which were stretcher bearers then, and they were sort of slightly behind the front, as you would be, and these rounds were dropping over them and hitting them. And when Duke laughs, when he tells me, because he's got a very dour jock accent, and he's a great storyteller. I can't do it justice, but he says, I heard this 155. He said there was Spyro and Gaz in the tent, and I just seen this tent just go up with this round, been shattered with 155 shell. And he went, oh no, my God, in a Scottish accent, really, he's upset. He got down there, and they weren't touched. Gaz got a bit of shrapnel, and the whole tent had been obliterated. Another friend got this grenade in the back of his smock and running around and it didn't go off. We were mortared and the rounds were dropping, boom, boom, boom. One dropped in between my mate Dick's legs as we were lying down, didn't go off. They were going into the peat, and the peat was the ones that did go off were tamping the explosion. But yeah, I mean, it's the war's crazy. It's crazy.
Can I ask you a question? I know we were actually intended to come on to this a bit later, but while we're on the topic now, when we on the if I off air we were talking about, I know earlier on we were talking about different units come back different times in Afghan. When 3 Para came back from that first Helmand tour in 2006, we had a situation where, and I know this because I went on to be like a guest instructor on pre-deployment training for other units going out.
Right.
And we had an issue where they wouldn't believe what they wouldn't believe what we were describing about our experiences. And we were describing these things to basically get them to, what to focus on their training and what to focus on their training and what to expect them to get out there. And they basically wouldn't believe what we were describing. As in, they wouldn't believe the type of combat, not like bog standard war fighting that we now know took place many times of that. They wouldn't believe us. They believed us soon enough after they got out there themselves, like a few months later, right?
Oh yeah.
What was it like coming back from the Falklands? Did you have anything like that where you were interacting with other units who hadn't experienced anything like that? Was there like a divide that created? Was there anything significant in terms of the relationship between the units, not just the Para Reg units, the Bootnecks and the Welsh Guards, for example, out there, and the rest of the British forces who had nothing to do with it?
I soon after we came back, I went and did. I was on SAS selection, but there, as I say, Chris Fox, captain of the Marines, there, he got the MC for his raid on Topolova House, I believe. He and I were the only Falklands guys there. I didn't feel any resentment from the people on the selection. I mean, there was a lot of them. I think it was too early on for anybody to sort of digest anything. Certainly, as I was going around the country interviewing, there were certain instances that came through. A mentor of mine, Scouse Marty Majerison, my first mentor in the Paras, first time I went out on the streets in Ireland. He was a Lance Jack, I was a Green Tom, and I was shitting myself. Because, Northern Ireland was gritty in its day.
What year was that?
79.
Oh man.
You
Okay.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was
Yeah. Yeah.
gritty.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we thought we'd missed it all after the 72 Hot Motor Man, Bloody Sunday, but it still went on for
Yeah.
another, what, 10, 12, 13 years,
Yeah.
didn't it? I was just like really, really sort of scared with it all. But when he got back, he then went down to Warminster and did some kind of Warminster course down there. I don't know what it was. And there was a lot of resentment from the training staff down there.
So he was an officer, was he?
No, he was. He'd be a full
Oh,
screw
you said he
still.
was. You said he was a
Yeah,
lance
but
jack. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah.
he's a scouse. He got shot in the face on the advanced degree screen. I digress, but I'll tell you this funny story. I wasn't there, but it's in the book. I mean, it's, you know, scousers are like, I mean, they just don't stop talking. Anyway, poor old Marty gets shot in the jaw hanging off. He's got shot in the leg, and he's outside the RAP post, yeah, smoking. And one of the lads, Marty, sees Marty and goes, "Bloody hell, Scouse, that shut you up in it." And he's smoking, and there's smoke coming out. There's smoke coming out everywhere. And I saw him years later in Iraq when he's in Kuwait, and he actually got his jaw sorted. But anyway, he was down at Warminster, and the because he was influencing the guys on the Carder on the course to do the where you put your web in. Yeah, it's Power Edge thing where you put your web in, sensible, get rid of the old. I don't suppose, did you experience it? The old boot polishing kit at the back, the kidney pouches.
No.
Well, that's something back
That
from
was
the
58 pattern webbing, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah, that was well. I mean, we all went over to the American, and we were allowed to wear that. But down on this course, one of the
Were they on the yokes? Were they?
yeah, on the yoke,
Right,
on the
no.
back.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, they're called kidney pouches. My God, get a lot of Mars in there.
So sitting above the belt. So sitting above the belt, but on the yokes.
Below above the belt on the yoke,
On the
but
yoke.
below the your bum roll for your what do they call it?
Oh, right. No, I only had the normal standard belt kit.
Well, this is what Marty was
I say
wearing
standard
down
belt
there,
kit,
and
Power Edge
all
belt
the
kit.
hats down there were doing it as well because Marty was like, you know, he'd been to war and all this. But the training major down there didn't like it. And it's, as I say, the story's in the book, and I can't do it justice by waffling. But Marty just said to him, oh, his jaw's all fixed there, but he's still loud, still chopsy. He gave them both barrels. But you come to war and you expect this and you make us carry this. I'm telling you, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And I think they did change. They certainly changed taking trenches out with the Milan when we got back, because the Milan was only for tanks or, you know, maybe soft skin vehicles, but we can't afford to fire them because they're too expensive. But well, I didn't. A company took the trenches out with the Milans, which was the feature Darwin Hill before Goose Green.
Mm.
The
They weren't
feature-
doing that before. They were just purely using them for anti-tanks.
Yeah, purely anti-tanks,
Yeah.
yeah. And these things change in war as they do, don't they? You know.
Yeah.
Not only does the medical side of things get really good, and you know, everybody starts to adapt stuff for war, but you know, tactics do as well. It takes time for tactics to change, but eventually it does. But
Yeah. I think one of the unfortunate things as things go forward and the age of information is upon us, and like the Joe public know very quickly what's going on, like in seconds know what's going on, like with British forces overseas, or whatever. And over the Afghan campaign from 06 to, let's say, 2015, or my part of the campaign 06 to like 2011, all of the great things happened that, you know, high operational tempo, high levels of combat bring about, which is, like you said, improvements in kit, improvements in tactics, techniques, training. But also, one of the unfortunate things that came about was, again, because of the era, is that we went way overboard on protective equipment, You know, on the first, 06 when I went out there, it was belt kit, it was the CBA with the small.
A hard time 06, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was real.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
that
and
was real crazy.
Went out there, and I mean, it was those first couple. Our one, the boot next after, maybe one more after. Before the Taliban changed tactics to IEDs and indirect weapons, when they were, when it was small arms, when it was combat.
Yeah.
I think they were the best times to go out there. But we also had the advantage of it was early on. Like Joe public weren't fully aware. There wasn't like this massive the tide of public opinion on it had not started to change from positive to negative. So the as it went on, the appetite for casualties and loss of life became much less. Not that there's ever an appetite for it. But
Yeah.
when we went on the '06 tour, we would bin our body. I mean, you did what goose green that without body armor.
No, light
Yeah,
order.
nothing.
Light
Nothing.
order.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what we on the '06 tour we would strip to that.
Yeah.
If we were going on an offensive on
Yeah.
a mission in to strike somewhere, if you advance to contact or whatever we were doing, a lot of the time we would take a body armor
Yeah.
off and ditch it because we wanted to be light scale like you guys, basically. Move faster, move faster.
Anybody
outwit the
that's
enemy.
spinning, anybody, and I do say it now, and look, I'm an old geezer, but the only people that used to wear chest webbing when I was in were the amphibious troops in the SES and the SBS, and I can understand that for buoyancy. You're talking about belt order, aren't you?
Mhm.
Because when you start getting shot at, the thing you do is get down. You don't want to get down, and you've got about another, I don't know, on top of you, and your arse is in the air. That's you gone, completely gone. I look at this kit and I go, it's all right for fighting in build-up areas. That's cool. But I don't know if, I mean, you've got more experience of this modern warfare than I have, but I do feel that when the shit hits the fan, you've got to get down. And I've been in situations so many times that if I was an inch higher, I may not be here. It's those critical distances. And the belt kit they wear now, which is chest mounted. I mean, do they still wear it? I think they do.
Yeah.
I mean, that you can stick that on if you're going to go into town. But
Well, at the minimum, you've got a plate. At the minimum, you've got a big plate at the front.
Yeah.
You've got it's obviously all molly, so you can put stuff up in the front if you want. But to your point, the second tour came around, which is for me, which is '08. And by that point, we were having to wear the big plates in that kit you're talking about, or similar to what it is now. And I was a sniper at that point, and it was, and you had no choice but to wear it. If you you weren't allowed not to. Okay.
Right.
And as a sniper, never mind as a rifleman. Well, as a rifleman, not even as a sniper. To your point, it was very difficult to get into a prone fire position, a fire position you're trained in to get down, And then you move on to the third time I went out, which was over Christmas 2010 into 2011. And it again, this focus on protective equipment had escalated to a level where it was even glasses. You had to wear ballistic protective glasses in case you got shrapnel in your eyes, right? Now, I don't know about you. I haven't seen many people get shrapnel. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but there's not a lot of people get shrapnel in their eyes. But everyone had to wear these fucking glasses, and they were issued glasses, and they would steam up and all sorts of things. You have to weigh up
in this.
Did you got shrapnel? There you go. You're one person.
Sorry.
Just blew my point out of the water.
Yeah.
But
I was sort of blind from 3
just
o'clock round to 9 o'clock.
oh, really?
Yeah, seriously, yeah. No, but you're right. I'm the only person I know.
It was immobility was a problem, and the weight was a problem. All this kit, right?
And the weight sucks your energy and your body fluids, and you've got to carry more water.
Yeah,
it's a very.
The thing is, it's really difficult to prove how many lives have been lost because people were wearing too much protective equipment. It's like...
Yeah. But on the other hand, I remember that story when I was in Basra. There was a unit, I think it was 2004, something like that. And I was doing my private security stuff then. That the OC in charge of the unit there decided, and they were mechanized, so they weren't tapping around the place. They were on their vehicles to take their body armor off because it was too aggressive.
What?
Yeah. You got the other... you got the other side of it. I mean, yeah. Look, if you're riding around in a truck or a tank or a car, stick it on. But if you've got to go and be nimble and dart in and out, and it's a personal thing, but it's...
Yeah, I think it should be left up to the unit's discretion. That's what happened in '06. Was it wasn't like, hey, you don't wear your body armor into contact. It was like commander's discretion at the lowest level, section commander.
Yeah.
So they could decide if they're going to bin your body armor or not. And almost all of the guys would bin it. Just makes total sense.
The classes, are
especially in a
thing.
hot climate.
The classes are another thing. Your weapon's got to. Your weapon's got to be there, and your eyes go where the weapon goes. And if you've got these glasses on, and if you're anything like me, I sweat a bit and they steam up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's less than half a second contact.
It's ridiculous.
you
Yeah.
know. And I tell
Ridiculous.
people about, I used to tab for miles with the safety catch off being Point Man in certain circles. People go, "What?" Yeah, you've got to be so switched on where your feet go, looking around, your ears, looking at what's in front of you. Cover from view, cover from fire. What happens? All the what ifs. It's just a natural thing.
The main reason safety catches exist is
Mm.
because of morons, and you can't mitigate against morons. I would
Uh,
quite, I would quite happily go 100% of the time with my safety catch off and trust
yeah.
myself fully. Trust myself. The exception being, right? Maybe the jungle,
Oh no, the
where
jungle's different.
there's stuff catching
Yeah.
onto the trigger
No.
guard, and maybe the safety catch is going
Yeah,
on.
I'll give you
But
that, buddy.
everywhere
Yeah.
else,
Yeah.
I can trust myself to fall down a ditch, flipping, get blown off my feet,
Yeah.
and my trigger finger is going nowhere near that trigger unless I'm
I'm
firing
talking about
anger.
in the desert or in the in the grassy fields of Ireland or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah,
Anyway,
not in the jungle. Yeah.
pulling it back. So back onto the arse of Saddam.
Yeah.
Arrested in Kuwait, right? But
No, arrested. Arrested in Kuwait by the police. Yeah.
yeah, with all that
That was a
kit.
small arrest.
How did
Yeah.
the arse end up in the UK though? Did it end up in the UK?
Yeah. I flew out a couple of days later. I left
Oh,
on
you
what?
put it in the case.
Yeah, I put
Flew
it in the
out
case. Yeah.
$165. Yeah.
$163 pounds or whatever it was, pounds. I think they were taking pounds over there. Yeah, British Airways, so it wouldn't
But
be
why
pounds.
did that create you problems in the UK? Was that not the end of it? Got it back. It's on your mantelpiece.
Well, I went back and it was like it was 2003. I mean, war was just kicking off, really, and it sort of stayed in my sort of garden shed for a few years, and I kept going back and forwards to Iraq and stuff like that, and then I got a divorce. And then the house had to be cleaned out, and this thing appeared, and I thought, oh, because I'd almost forgotten about it in between the paint pots and the garden rakes. And I thought, what good can this do? And I decided to sell it. Like I said, sell it for to raise money for the Royal Centre for Defence Medicine and part the American Marines, the Wounded Warriors. So I thought, if I could do something good with this arse, then that would be great.
That's the Wounded Warrior Project, right?
Yeah, the Wounded Warrior Project. Yeah. And I actually went over to America and got them on board and stuff like that. So it just wasn't. It was a calculated to get maximum exposure, to get maximum price for the arse. I'd actually turned it into a piece of art because it is artistic. So it's my sort of piece of art, and that's what I was selling it at. A bit like the Mona Lisa,
Mm-hmm.
But the arse is a better looking, better artistic piece of art than what the Mona Lisa is. The Mona Lisa was only has only been famous, as some Texan art dealer told me. He said he knew the story of the arse and he knew I was trying to sell it. And he said, "Hey, buddy, it's worth between $7 and $10 million." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I've got it up for about 250,000." I said, "About $325." No, worth more. I said, "Well, why?" He said, "Well, you see, do you know the Mona Lisa?" I said, "Yeah, of course I do." He said, "The only reason why it got famous, it was stolen in 1913, and people used to go to see the dust mark around where the frame used to be." He said, "If you would see it if you saw it in a garage sale, a yard sale as they call them, he said you wouldn't pay $10 for it." He said it's a provenance. So he said your arse has got provenance.
Provenance.
So yeah, and also aesthetically, it looks nice for an arse.
Yeah.
That's it. So yeah, I went to sell it, and that's when the reign of terror came down on me. Such a naughty boy I am, trying to raise money.
For what? For war thievery?
Well, no, it was at the time the Americans, anything to do with the Bath Party, they said you can't do anything with it. A bit like the Nazis, like Hitler and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, they retrospectively tried to take the arse from me, because I was given the arse in April the 9th, 2003, and in June 2003, the United Nations Section 8, they made it was stealing of Iraqi property. And I was the first person in the world to be charged with that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, crazy. So retrospectively, I stole it before the law was even made.
Oh my God.
And because the value of it had gone up so much that some apparatchik in the Iraqi ministry must have put pressure on Baghdad. I know the way it works. So put the pressure on some British apparatchik in the embassy there. Uh, you won't get the contract if you don't get me my arse back. You know, all that nonsense goes on. And of course, then the full weight of the law came down on me.
But where's the rest of the statue? It can't. The arse can't have been the only thing that was nicked. Like, who's got the rest of it? Who's got the bits and bobs
It
from it?
was shifted out.
Has no one else been
Well,
done
the
for this?
head. Well, I've got pictures of the head, and I'm sure that's in some Iraqi minister's garage somewhere. But I'm not sure the head's worth more than the arse, because the arse does have a story behind it now. The rest of it got shipped out to Jordan, like everything. Anything metal was shifted west.
Really?
Yeah, because of scrap. And also, they didn't want anything to do with Saddam. They just want to get rid of it. Anything Bath Party. So that's why you saw all these gold taps started appearing, or different heads. But in every town in Iraq, there was a statue of Saddam. He had so many palaces as well. But the story puts the value on the arse. And of course, everybody knows the statue falling down. I mean, it's an iconic picture of that particular time in history. Yeah. So they came at me viciously. I thought, bless them. They spent over £100,000 pursuing me back then.
They be in the UK
Police, yeah.
police, yeah.
Yeah, the Metropolitan Police were very good. After the first sort of attempt at auction, I had it back in my pickup, and I live in a very quiet part of deepest Herefordshire. I live a mile down a dirt track, and I'm driving down the dirt track with this arse in the back of my pickup, and I get this call, and this guy, and it's just been all around the world with, I've been on the media. Everybody wanted this piece of the action, the story. You know, they got newspapers to fill, so it was kind of all right. I got this call, and this guy says, "Is that Spud?" And that's my nickname. I said, "Yeah." Like that. And I think, well, I've been spending the last couple of days talking to journalists. I went, "Yeah." I said, "Who's this?" He said, "A friend." I said, "What, a friend?" I said, not that old chestnut." And he went, "No, a friend. This is No Duff." And I thought, well, you know what No Duff is?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
quite
yeah.
difficult to explain. It means,
Yeah.
should I try to attempt to explain
You can
it to
do.
you?
Go on. Yeah.
All right, No Duff. It's an acronym the army use. And basically what it is, it means that if you're on exercise as opposed to operations, you're playing war games, and someone on the position you want to attack gets injured and they have to be casevaced out, then the message comes through the whole net, No Duff. That means you can't pinpoint where you see the helicopter land or you hear the vehicle coming to pick the casualty out. And it means that you're not allowed to use that in order to advance your position on that location. So it means No Duff. It means this is for real.
Yes,
Basically.
genuine. Yeah.
Genuine,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, No Duff. So I thought, all right. I said, "Yeah, all right, mate. What you got?" I just had a long old drive, and I was a bit pissed off with everything because I wanted to sell this arse. And he says, "Look," he said, "they're coming for you." I said, "What do you mean they're coming for me?" He said, "They're coming for the arse." I said,
Yeah.
"What do you mean they're coming for the arse?" He says, "Yeah, they're coming for the arse. They want the arse." I said, "Who's they?" He says, "The police, the system." I went, "Oh, all right." I said, "When are they coming? Like, when are they coming? Give us a hand." He says, "What's the day?" I said, "Friday." He said, "Shall we say Monday?" I went, "Yeah, Monday. Monday's good." Well, of course, it was someone in the security services that got wind of it, because we then, a couple of months later, there was somebody in the CPS that was batting for me as well.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I had all these little things come out. So that's when they came down, the police came down, and they got stuck halfway coming down my track because they came down in a car.
Just
And I was outside at the time, and I heard a load of pheasants flutter away. And, pheasants don't flutter away unless they're disturbed by a deer or maybe a fox. And the fox wasn't about. And potentially deer, but it's humans that scared them. And so I thought, oh, something's coming down the track, and you can hear it. I mean, my senses are hearing's not good, but my senses are pretty good. So I go back in the cottage and I'm looking, and my cottage, the front door's out the back, and the back is out the front, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So this creature comes looking round. Fucking hell, I'm looking through the window. Fucking, it's the copper. It's the sergeant. It's the sergeant that nicked me. Trying to think. Yeah. So he goes. He's knocks on the door, and I thought he was going to say, come out. We know you're in there. Hands up.
Yeah.
He knocks on the door, and I didn't answer. I'm deliberately playing with him. And he knocking on the door. I said, yes, who's that? He said, it's Sergeant. That's what I call him, Sergeant.
Yeah.
It's not his real name. I said, oh, I opened the door, and he's only a little bloke, and the coppers up there call him the midget.
Oh, God.
So they got that sort of nice name from him. From Derbyshire Wharf, that's the police station up there. The midget from the wharf, they call him. Anyway, he comes. I open the door. I said, what's up? He says, we've got a warrant to come and search your house. I says, really? I said, you've come all the way from Derby and you want to search my house. Where's the warrant? He said, it's in the car. I said, where's the car? He said, oh, it's halfway up the truck. I said, you better go and get it then.
Why on earth did you go there without the warrant?
Wow. This is the whole
thing. What a
thing.
moron.
He brought two other guys, two heavies with him, who actually were nice coppers. They just knew they were dealing with this guy. And they were actually really good. And they took their shoes off when they came up and into my cottage. Downstairs is flagstones, upstairs is carpet. So that was kind of funny. But that's when it all started. I got they arrested me again. You arrest by appointment these days. That was so funny.
What do you mean?
Well, they call you up and say, we want to arrest you. Can you come up at a certain time? When's convenient for you?
Huh?
Yeah, that's what they do. They do now.
Jesus.
Yeah. Real bizarre. So I went up.
I mean, it's considerate of them.
Handed myself in, yeah, and had a lawyer there, and the dwarf from the wharf, not the midget, the dwarf from the wharf, they call him. He was there. I had my shoelaces taken off and all the usual thing, and then they sat me in a cell for an hour or so. Usual stuff. I mean, when you've done SAS interrogation, resistant to interrogation, you can, it stays with you for life, sort of thing. Don't say anything. So yeah, they then take me into this interview room.
But what were they trying to ascertain? That he didn't already
They
know?
wouldn't know where the arse was. I wouldn't tell them. Because up until then, nobody had seen the arse. They'd seen pictures of it, and they didn't know if the arse was the arse.
Oh, right.
So we're playing this sort of...
It could have been bullshit all along for all they know.
It could have been bullshit. But what happened was they interviewed me for about 40 minutes. And one guy was the good cop, and the other one was the bad cop, the dwarf from the wharf. And I was like, oh, this is fucking stupid. This is pathetic. And my brief's sitting next to me. I can't answer that question. No, I can't answer that question, And the guy says, oh, the nice cop, I said, I was in the engineers. And I said, can't answer that question. And he kept talking. He said, this is not going to do good for your career. And, you've been such a great person and this, that, and the other. I can't answer that question. And I just thought, just talking bollock. What do you think I am?
Yeah.
Kind of fun it was. And then they just gave up eventually. But my business partner at the time, Jim, is a Manchurian.
Yeah.
He was effing and swearing. They kept him locked up for 9 hours.
Oh, my God.
So, you got to play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they released me, but they put me on bail 7-8 times, stopped me flying out to Kuwait, stopped me doing everything. It was just absolutely bonkers. It was just vindictive, which got my hackle up even more. I even went to my local MP to his surgery. I said to him, I want to know who in the Foreign Office is doing this. I said, I want names. I said, because I'm really pissed off with this. He couldn't wait to throw me out of his office. Within 2 minutes, I was gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They just didn't want to know. So I just kept on. I just want to know who it was. Who is doing this? They're doing it for money. They're not doing it because, under some United Nations sanction, stealing Iraqi cultural property.
Mhm.
I mean, they don't go after everybody else that's got gold taps or people like that. It was just something that they wanted, because I'd made it more than its value, because it was valuable. If it was 10 grand ass, 20 grand ass, they probably wouldn't worry, because now there's a figure of initially 240 to 250,000, then 7 to 10 million. It's gone crazy.
Hugh, what's the goddamn problem? I don't see.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
see the issue. Don't see the issue.
We
It's
have
not like it's something that could tarnish the reputation of what was once a good man. It's Saddam
Yeah.
Hussein's ass. You know,
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is.
make money from it.
And yeah, and
Make
it
a
was for
mockery
good
of it.
causes as well. It was for. It was not as if I was trying to profit from it. For Christ's sake, okay, I've written a book, and hopefully, eventually, it'll be a great film or TV series, because it's bonkers. It's something like out of a Guy Ritchie movie would make, or Quentin Tarantino type. It's that crazy.
Well, and I tell you what, another thing at the moment is those war stories at the moment. There's war films at the minute where it's not a war film; it's a story about a civilian getting involved in war. Like
Okay.
you got they just seem to be big over the last few years. There's a couple I've watched recently. There's one called I think it's called The Greatest Beer Run Ever or something like that.
Oh
Do
yeah.
you know about
Yeah.
this one?
No,
Oh,
no,
it's
no.
well worth a watch. It's
Oh,
quite
is it?
recent,
Is
and
it a
it's
film
about
or a TV series?
it's a film,
It's a film.
and it's very recent, and it's about a guy. It's during the Vietnam War. It's about a guy back home in America. For some reason, he doesn't get drafted or doesn't go to
Yeah.
Vietnam, and his buddies are out there and they're writing back and forth, and blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah. And he decides to, out of the blue, surprise them and bring them a case of beer
Oh,
from
right.
America.
Yeah,
And it's a
yeah.
true story.
Oh,
It's a true
brilliant.
story. And it's
Lovely.
a brilliant
Lovely.
story. It's such a good film. And there's another one which is War Dogs, which is another true story based on a couple of white boys from America who basically become arms dealers, and that's on the Gulf War actually. That's on
Oh,
the
is
Gulf
it?
War.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
they're hot. They're popular because
Mm.
they're like real life fantasies that lots of civilians, lots of men in particular, that's
Yeah.
the kind of adventure they
Yeah.
dream
Well,
of.
it is a
You know,
feature.
and
You're
you're a
right.
real life
You're
person
right,
who's gone
Hugh.
and done it.
Yeah. And
know?
what this has is it shows the might of the American army. And when I look at I'm just amazed. I'm in awe of the American forces. I just amazing what they can do, what they did in Iraq.
What do you mean? In
How
what way?
well we were right at the forward element going up. This is before I got the arse, and we had to halt because there was some sort of Iraqi. Well, they weren't Iraqi soldiers. There was thousands. We passed thousands of Iraqi soldiers. They were run off into the desert, and they all congregated in their whites. They'd thrown away their military clothing and boots. And the Americans would stop and give them crates of rations and water. I'd say, go and get your boots, put your boots on, and go home, go north. But there was this group of Fedayins that stopped us, the real loyalists. And so we had to wait for the engineers to turn up. And they turned up with first thing that turned off into the desert. We were on the MSL, which was the main supply route up, built by Germans, six-way motorway, four going north, four going south. Really good. But since they had no cars from Safwan, which was the southern border town of Iraq, up to Baghdad, no cars, no nothing, just like a desert. Even the houses were just like corrugated iron. Real shame. Basra was a stinking place.
What do you
Awful.
mean they had no cars?
No cars. They did see any cars. There was no cars.
What, in the country before the war?
No, only in Baghdad.
I didn't know that.
No, all horse and cart. All horse and cart. Not one car. One car there was being pulled by a horse and cart, of the remains of a car, the chassis and the seats. Absolutely incredible. So yeah, that they would then pull off. We would be halted, and then there was about 40 or 50 D10 Caterpillar bulldozers would come in, bulldoze the berms up so they get the desert flat. Then these big shakers would come in to vibrate the down, and then refrigerator units, then this and that, and everything came in. And within 4 or 5 hours, 3,000 Marines were in this secure part of the desert with C-130s landing. I mean, just no other army in the world could do that the way they did
Mm,
it. I know the Chinese are outnumber the Americans with ships, but as far as airplanes and the ability to do stuff, it was just amazing. So I'm just in awe of the Americans, and that's part of the story. And then the second part is on the way home and the whole bullshit with the British establishment and how corrupt they are in a funny way. So it's going to be character driven with lots of funny stories. I mean, one example after the um, during after Jessica Leach, after I interviewed, I then got asked to go and interview Colonel Grabowich, got to get his name right, who secured the bridge, and he lost 3 Marines on this bridge, and he couldn't get them. So I
was
went
that
in
in Nazareth?
hmm?
In Nazareth?
In Nazaré,
Yeah.
yeah. I went and interviewed him. Sky News weren't allowed to go and interview him because I'm an independent. They weren't allowed to go. So I said to the retired brigadier Reed Johnson, who was writing up the historical notes for We Were With Task Force Tarawa. That was the lead element. He said, "Come on in, Spud. Um, get your kit, get your camera. We're going to interview Gravelwich. We've got to run Bomb Alley and get in the back of this Amtrak." And I thought, okay. I said, "Reed, give us a weapon for Christ's sakes." He said, "No, you can't." I said, "Give us a weapon, man." He said, "No, you'll be safe in this Amtrak." And we were safe, but we rode through this. There were things bouncing off us and everything, and I'm
Mm.
thinking, what am I doing here? What the fuck am I doing here? I mean, Reed was like 10 years older than me, and I'm thinking, oh my God, but at least he had a gun. And we get out, and we go into this compound. And as soon as I get out, I see these Delta boys there with their little skateboard hats on. They used to wear, and they're all round defence. They look at me and looking at me, thinking, "I'd look at a journalist, dirt bastards, And I interviewed Colonel Grabovich, and I, and there were a couple more press there, and it was really humbling. And we were in a sort of blown out the old police station, the old Iraqi police station north of the river. And I cheekily said to him after the interview was over, I said, "Colonel, I said, I'm ex Special Forces, I'm ex Paras. I said, can I go and see the bridge, please?" And then Reed, the brigadier guy, said, "Yeah, he is what he is." And I went to the bridge with the colonel, and I got amazing pictures on this big bridge. And he told me the story about the Iraqis. They came up,
Right.
they buried his dead Marines, and they came up with a white flag. A woman came up with a white flag and showed the colonel and his men where his men were buried. I thought that was really nice,
Wow.
and it's a story that doesn't get told,
So the Iraqis after the battle
Yeah,
got the Marines who were basically left on the
they were dead,
battlefield,
yeah.
which was in control of the Iraqis.
Yeah, but not the
They
Fedayeen, they're just Iraqi people
Yeah, and they buried him. Wow.
buried them,
I never knew that
as
story.
per Muslim,
Yeah, never knew that story.
tradition. And then they came up under the white flag and showed them.
For some reason, I can't imagine that would happen these days. For some reason,
Very early on in the war. Oh, 2 weeks.
yeah,
2 weeks.
very early on
Yeah.
in the relationship between the West and the Arab and Muslim parts of the world as well.
Yeah, they got it all wrong. I remember my Kuwaiti friends telling me, I wish I could do the accent. I sound like a Pakistani or something, Bangladeshi, but I won't do it. I might offend someone. But they used to say to me, why are they taking orders for some? And I said I won't swear, but some fucker in Washington, Iraqi, that's lived there for 25 years, some professor, said, "You should come here. What you need to do, what you need to tell your people," they said, "you need to beat the Iraqi with a stick for 5 years because they won't understand what you're trying to give them." And I still remember that phrase. I said, "You're kidding me." I said, "Yeah, no, you have to beat them with the stick." Because they
Yeah.
were still very much pissed off about being invaded.
Mm.
And my friend Abu Hassan, who we're still very good friends with, his brother was killed at a checkpoint in Kuwait. He couldn't get out of Kuwait because a lot of Kuwaitis got it. He couldn't. His brother couldn't get out of Kuwait, and everybody that was the Iraqi army weren't manning the checkpoints in Kuwait. It was the Palestinians. Now, that could be controversial, but they
Was
killed
it
his brother.
really?
He killed his brother.
The Palestinians were manning it.
There were 30,000 Palestinians working in Kuwait.
Refugees.
No, working in Kuwait before Saddam invaded. When Saddam invaded, they all joined Saddam.
I did not know
And
that.
then when we came in, they kicked them all out. There wasn't a Palestinian working in Kuwait for years. There are some now, but they all went into Jordan and wherever.
Huh.
Yeah, yeah. I say that because that's that's what I was told.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So yeah, so about the arse, it's just got everything. I just can't believe. I look back at it now and I pick up that book every now and again. I just read it and go, "This is crazy."
Mm.
It was 3 weeks of the trip back was crazy. When we went into through Al Nazariyah and going into Salman Pak. Salman Pak became very famous because it had the first Iraqi blogger out of
Right.
Salman Pak, and I think he
Really?
called himself Salman Pak. Yeah, yeah. We could still get couldn't get mobile signal, but he was blogging through the internet. You know, it was card internet, and we went through there.
So what year is this?
This is 2 weeks into the war,
Oh, yeah.
2003.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely crazy. All the locals had gone mad on the government buildings. There were these they were like hundreds of people with tins of tomatoes on their shoulders. There was these little bobcats that were all zipping about Salmon Pack. I mean, dead bodies everywhere, places burning, you know. And there's these brand new bobcats that have obviously been requisitioned out of some government building, and they were going around driving, nicking things. All the little buckets were full up. It was full on. Well, I wouldn't say looting. I think that people were just joyous. And I just drove through there, and oh my God.
Well, I mean, yeah, when you were talking earlier about Arthur Saddam and people and that's right, the scrap metal going west.
Yeah.
The first thing I thought of was because I was there 2003 with Three Para.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and when we went in to take Basra, that
Yeah.
battle that never was. I remember being on the outskirts as we were getting ready to basically the advanced contact start to kick that off. And it was just the highways were just, or the highway we were on either side of, just masses of people coming down it out of Basra, carrying anything that could carry. There was a tractor came down the road. Tractor, or was it a pickup? It was a pickup truck came down the road, and it was dragging a giant aircon unit. I mean, this thing was huge.
Yeah.
Or a unit of some sort.
Yeah.
I mean, this unit was the size of a car, if not twice. But they were just dragging it. Sparks were flying everywhere.
Crazy.
And there was, when you mentioned about the horse and carts, there was a donkey came down with the guy basically whipping it for this thing to walk along, and the load it had on its back. And I can't remember what the load was, but this donkey was struggling to stand. Never mind. I mean, it was literally in its last hours of death. Had to have been, and it was just they were just taking everything. They were just taking everything from the city. Everything from the city.
Yeah,
you know.
it is. I mean, were you? Did you? I was at the 3 Para Airborne Forces Day in the desert. Where was it? It was right on the border. No, it was in Kuwait.
In Kuwait.
We
Before the invasion.
Airborne Forces Day.
Before the invasion.
No, after.
No, I wasn't there. No.
Yeah, 3 Para. Because my mate Tony.
I don't think I was there.
Tony was there.
I don't remember if I was.
Yeah,
there.
I was there. Yeah. I mean, crazy times. And it got crazy when I got back to the UK, and it's still going on now. And one day I want to.
But it's still trying to
finish it.
It's still trying to do you now.
Well, but this is when they couldn't get me. When I refused to talk, refused to tell them where it was, they threatened me with 7 to 10 years, the same amount of time as $7 to $10 million. So I don't know where that came from. 7 to 10 years for stealing this thing, so-called stealing it. I was given it. I'd done a spectroanalysis on the arse itself, so I know the molecular makeup of it. Yeah. So if anybody else says it's not the arse or it is the arse, I say, well, find the head and let's match it up because it is the arse. Well, how it finished for the police at the time was They put out a press report stating that Mr. Ely, basically, I'm a liar, um, that the arse is not the arse, and he was conning people. This is a press statement. It's in the book. My barrister, who was on pro bono, said, just leave it. This is all part of it. It's all part of the game. And yeah, that's what you suggested, that it's not the arse. It is, yeah, they say it's not the arse. But on the other, at the other breath is if the arse exposes itself, they're going to come and nick me. So we could have such great fun with making these arses all over the place and having, you could have such great fun. And the ending isn't finalized. You could have several endings. You can make these endings up.
Because we don't know where the arse is.
Because I don't know where the arse is. And let me tell you the story. I'll finish it with, because the book finishes. The only criticism of Bring Me the Arse of Saddam is the ending. And I didn't like doing the ending, but there is no ending. So I'm going to meet Brigadier Abu Hassan, who flew in from Kuwait, my old mate, and I'm going to meet him in a pub just off Kendall Street. I think it's called the Kendall, just off behind the Victory Services Club.
Okay.
The square there, forget the square. Anyway, Tony Blair lives there. And I've got a holdall. So it's at night, and I'm going to meet Abu Hassan outside the Kendall pub. And I walk around the square, there's these armed coppers on the front door. And I'm like, nothing. So I go around the back, and there's an armed copper behind the garages. And I've gone, what are you doing there, buddy? He said, what are you doing? I said, what are you doing in the shadows, mate? And he's got his MP5. I just take the piss out of him. I said, I don't know why you're guarding that twat, that traitor. He went, you want to be on your way. And I've got this, a lot of people carry Bergens, don't they? I still carry the old grip.
Yeah.
Like the old blaggers that have the shotgun in. They had my overnight gear. And I just see, and then the copper sees Abdul, this Arab guy, but he's in a suit. And he says, Nigel, I'm here, in a broken Arabic English accent. And of course, I could feel this copper go, oh, what's going on here then? And he retreats into the shadows. And that's the end of the book. But I just felt that I deserved a bit of fun. I just deserved a bit of fun because it cost tens of thousands. It cost me a shitload of money, all this. And for what? They just screwed around with me.
Yeah.
For what? It's not. What did I do? Did I do anything really bad? Everything I was doing was good. For the good. And I'm out of pocket by tens of thousands of pounds.
Yeah. And at what cost to the taxpayer? All that nonsense.
Over 100,000. A friend of mine worked it out. He said, "Well, I gave him a quick." He said, "Yeah, it's 100,000," without even thinking. But he said the trouble is, you won't have the Crown CPS looking at it. You'll have a retired CPS person to find the legal side of it, because there's no precedent. So you're the first person in the world to be charged with this crime, and they have to get some kind of statement and precedent that they can then move forward and prosecute me, and be sure that they are spending the taxpayers' money wisely. But in order to get that point, they spent 100 grand already.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just bonkers.
Ridiculous.
The whole thing's bonkers.
For what?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
Absolute madness.
We'll see. As I say, I'm up in London now, trying to raise some capital to get the script developed. And I think the way to go is just see if I can get hold of some British directors.
Well, I'll introduce you to a few people
Yeah.
who may be able to point you in the right direction. Or
It's
help
so hard.
directly.
It's just everything's so hard, but I'll never give up on it. It's like publishing. I feel sorry for people that have written a great story, and they, if you send a manuscript up to a publisher and you haven't got an agent, It just goes into file 13.
Yeah.
If you have got an agent, then that agent has to be good enough to place it in the hands of someone that likes, if it's war, if it's romance, if it's drama, because we're all humans, and if you've got a romantic novel that goes in the hands of a woman who's had a big breakup over the weekend, you ain't going to want to read that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean it's a no as an entertainment story. It's an entertaining story for a
Mm,
film. It's a no brainer. I can visualize the kind of film it would be and the kind of ending it
yeah.
have, and I go, I want
Yes.
to I want to watch that film. I want to watch that film 100.
Yeah, it's bonkers. It's absolutely mental. Maybe it's a working title, "Bring the Arse of Saddam," but um, that might. But look, Sky like it, Netflix likes it, but they want the finished script. I mean, do they want me to shoot it for them as well? I mean, I just don't get this.
Mm.
You know, the big they say they had Netflix had a success with, what's that one about the queer film last year? Um, the barman and this kind of large woman customer. What was it called? Seahorses? Do you remember that one? Real weird,
yeah, I've
real
never seen.
weird.
I know what you're on about. I've never
Oh,
seen it. I've heard it's
real
weird. Yeah,
weird one.
yeah, see or something like.
But that script was given, from what I get told, to Netflix as a finished script. Of course, they will change it, but it's kind of, you've got to do all the work first.
I mean, that's why they're able to churn out so much content all the time. There's so much that they're churning out,
Yeah.
so many things that they churn out
Yeah.
on Netflix because they're basically outsourcing the FM. They're just
Yeah,
a
yeah,
they're a
yeah.
publishing house as opposed to a production house, right?
Yeah.
They did sort of doing their
Yeah.
well, they're like a post production house, aren't they? You know?
Yeah, well, I say all the hard work's done, but I know in book publishing, if you don't get your book to a major publisher, you ain't going to sell any money. My arse book I did myself because my agent didn't want it because it wasn't right, and I tried it. My older brother was dying of cancer, and I wanted to get it out so he could have it in his hands. It was um, as a business choice, it was the wrong choice, but I felt for my brother, I did it
Why did you want him to have it in his hands?
because he always encouraged me to write about Goose Green and to write because he saw he was an avid reader, so I just wanted him to have it. He
Hmm.
was dying anyway, but it may have just given him another week or so. As a consequence, it wasn't right in the sense that there was a lot of editorial points.
It was rushed.
It was rushed, yeah. But when I changed it all and published it myself with Amazon Online, which was a complete a learning curve for me, and I did it, it became a bestseller, Amazon bestseller.
Oh, but publishing yourself.
Published it
Yeah.
myself. And it's still selling well to this day, and Amazon will not allow me to advertise it. Now, you can't because of the title.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it
God.
breaches their terms of contract.
Why not change the title?
Well, they only changed their terms of contract 6 months after the book was published. So I did have an initial boost of paying for the advertising. I did say to them, I submitted buttock, different connotations of the arse. And they said, no, 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 no. I said the bronze. So I put out the bronze in America. And it was just, I thought, oh no, what am I doing?
Mm.
It's the arse. That's the title of the book,
Mm.
not bronze.
No.
Bring me the bronze of Saddam.
Yeah.
So it's still selling, but it's kind of, yeah. Well, that's the pros and cons of going on your own. If you go to a big publishing house, consider that W.H. Smiths have about 500 outlets. You get one book in there, that's 500 gone.
Yeah.
So maybe 1,000 just through Smiths. The Goose Green book had the airport edition, which is the size of the hardback but paperback. That got to number 4. The whole book, the Goose Green book, got to number 11 in the Times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it came out just once again bad timing. Putin invaded.
Oh,
So
okay.
then war. I got knocked off the who was the Good Morning Britain slot. I could have achieved lots of sales with that. but everyone was on about the war, and they didn't think maybe, a book
Well,
about war.
there are publishing houses which they call themselves hybrid publishing houses now, which sit in between. And I only know this because I interviewed a guy called Chris Cox, the author of Fire Force. Remember the book Fire Force? It's about the Rhodesian Light Infantry, Cellar Scouts, the Bush
Okay,
Wars,
right,
and
the Bush War, yeah,
and Chris Cox was RLI,
yeah,
and he became the sort of the unofficial historian of the RLI and the Cellar Scouts
okay,
afterwards, and he wrote a load on it. Fire Force is one of the books he wrote. Long story short, he came over here and lived in the UK. He still
yeah,
lives in the UK now. And him and his wife have a publishing house, and they're a hybrid. So they're not quite, hey, give us 50 grand and we'll publish your
all
book for you.
right,
They sit
yeah,
in between. They go, right,
yeah,
this is the ways that you can do things yourself now to take money off what no publisher would do,
yeah,
and we can help you market a book that are your self-publishing.
yeah,
Because yeah, I published a book in 2012, self-published, and it's the same experience.
yeah.
And the other thing is when you publish Amazon online, my experience back then was you can't get it into places like WH Smith's or
Oh no,
Waterstones,
no.
because Amazon have basically the
They,
not
they,
well not
well,
WH Smith.
they
What's the
give
other
you the
one?
option, don't they?
Oh, did I?
Yeah, they give you the option, and it's all to do with percentages of sales. That you can tick
Oh, they
one of the
didn't.
boxes that say you can. Um,
That must have changed. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's
yeah,
constantly changing. Like
yeah,
they changed my ability to advertise
yeah.
on Amazon.
Mm.
Yeah, no, it's difficult. It's not so much a vanity. I think if you've got a good story, it will always sell, but you have to work so much bloody harder to get it out there. Uh, Waterstones are very good because if you're a local author, you could buy your own books and go in there and say, "Could you display them?" And I'm happy to sign. And
Oh,
yeah, yeah, or could you order 5 and I'll come in and sign them because every signed book's a book that's sold.
yeah,
You know that? Yeah. So
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
um, yeah,
yeah.
it's very difficult, but I'm looking forward to my next venture. I've been doing it for 5 years. It's about living in the country. It's like an SAS veteran battling against Mother Nature. Uh, it's a
Battling
little
against Mother Nature.
against Mother Nature as far as growing things. It has net zero. It has rewilding, which is absolutely crazy because you can't grow anything because of certain beetles then thrive. Um, uh, I'm an example of that. I grow my own vegetables, fruit, and the field next to my cottage, 25 acres, it's been rewilded this is the 3rd year now, and it's completely devastated my vegetables, even tomatoes. And I spoke to a local farmer, and he said that's because of some kind of beetle. And if you want to grow, and I hate the word organic, but I'm trying to think of a new word for organic because organic has connotations of all greeny and, well, I'm not greeny. I just want to, I respect the planet and Mother Nature. And I just think going, I dare I say it, eating the right way, eating fresh, uh, local produce is the way to go. And this book actually encompasses everything, but it also encompasses, and I've got to have it, the prepping side of it. Although I'm not a prepper, you can't get away from it though, can you, Hugh? I
No,
mean, especially in this climate now. I mean, especially with the COVID, and now what may be coming up shortly. Um, there's a lot of unrest in this country.
one of the problems at the moment is that one of the problems at the moment on that subject of food sources, right,
Mm,
is that they're making it so hard for people to be able to sustain themselves, right,
yeah.
from livestock regulations and things like this, and even the ability, even things like allowing yourself to grow things on your own land in some
Mm,
cases is totally not allowed.
yeah.
No, I mean is because I think is because they're trying to commoditize food sources because it means you get more money, regulate it. The less you are growing for yourself, the more you have to purchase from someone. That's the more taxes and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
One of the problems with that is, people are going to become almost 100% reliant on shops to get their food sources. Well,
Mm,
they are now, most people, right? That's great.
mm.
To your point, there's a shortage of X, Y, or Z ingredient that these processed foods and
Oh, yeah.
organic meat, for example, it's all great until it's not all great, but until there's a problem in
Yeah.
that supply chain,
Supply
logistical
chain,
chain,
yeah.
and all of a sudden you cannot get
Yeah.
the food you need off the shelves. And then what do
Mm,
you need to go back to? Because and the way the farming's being decimated, or they're trying to decimate farming at the moment, you're totally screwed. You literally end up in a situation where you haven't got decent food to eat. You end up with malnutrition en masse.
Yeah.
And it sounds like grand and unlikely, but it's not. It's
No,
absolutely isn't. Well,
I mean,
that's
I
the
look
situation.
around.
That's the reality we're
Yeah.
heading towards.
Yeah.
You know?
I come into London and I look at all the food stocks are shopped. And when we had COVID, I asked my daughter who lives in London, how you getting the food? And, the supply lines were, tricky and stuff like that. And I really worried about her. But what's happening now is that people are so reliant on these pre-packed meals. I haven't eaten a pre-packed meal for over a year. I mean, I'm just not into anything processed. I like everything natural, and I just feel that people are not switched on enough. I've got a working title of this book called "Do You Know Where North Is?" And that's pretty obvious because if you're in London or in any city and say the grid goes down, say there's a terrorist bomb, say there's poison in the water system, I mean, all these things, the first thing people turn to is their phone. And that's fine in the first couple of hours. And what happens if you've got a low battery? You're screwed in the first 2 hours. And then people start, and especially if it's at night and the lights are out, you're used to walking to the tube. You don't go on the tube. So you need to know where your house is, or the best way to get out of the city. And then the other thing is, are you fit enough? Are you fit enough to walk 10, 15 miles? And then during that 10 or 15 miles, are you fit enough or switched on enough to keep out of the way of people taking, advantage of the situation, like looters? And then when that 5 hours goes to 10 or 15, people start getting thirsty. They start getting aggravated. And some of the sadistic bastards will start beating up people because they feel they can, then robbing and all that nonsense. It's just a crazy. But the whole book is about that, and I'm having to change it, and that's so frustrating for me because the time is changing very quickly now.
You have to change it in what way? What do you mean?
Well, look, net zero. The government have been net zero now. My book has always been about how the net zero lunacy of it. It's just common sense, and I had to take all the sort of that out of my book. 30,000 words, and now I'm having to put it back in because now it's acceptable. It's the norm. The government have now said they're not going to do it.
Have they been net zero?
Well, yeah, because they realise they can't make it, even 2050.
They always fucking knew they could. Pardon my language.
Everybody.
They always
Everybody,
knew they
yeah.
couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And the thing is about it at the minute, though, I have conversations on a weekly basis with some people,
Yeah.
and they are hook, line, and sinker in on this.
Yeah.
And some people who, in those conversations, are actually afraid of what is going to come if we don't hit the net zero absolute fallacy. I am totally. The thing is here, when people talk like this about the way you're talking or I'm talking about net zero, people will instantly want to vilify you as if you don't care about the planet and the environment.
Yeah.
I am not like that.
No.
I want this planet to be healthy. Like my main aim is minimize the waste I'm creating. I want to minimize the waste I'm creating. Basically, that's numero uno.
Yeah.
As much as I can.
Yeah.
And
I
want to eat as healthily as I can.
That's exactly how I
whole foods, natural foods.
Yes.
That's what I do. And minimize, minimize energy usage, for all this, because I care about the planet, but that's as far as you need to go. Exactly.
It is bizarre. I mean, I ask people, what's the killer? And they say carbon. And I say, well, what's the percentage of carbon in the atmosphere? And they go, well, it's 30. I said, is it 50? Is it 70? Because it's a real nasty piece of kit, this carbon. And they're shocked when I tell them it's 0.04%. They're absolutely shocked. And I tell them if it drops by 0.02%, then things start dying. And then I tell them that farmers pump it into their greenhouses for their cucumbers to grow and their tomatoes, and trees eat it. And we expel it.
Well, the Earth is the greenest now. The Earth is the greenest now. It's been hundreds of thousands of years. I went on a deep dive in this one. I had a conversation.
I've done it.
But only a couple of weeks ago, I had a conversation about. I was outnumbered. It was me and two others.
Yeah.
Right. And the conversation came up about climate change. And I mentioned the climate emergency being nonsense. Yeah. And that was it. I was like getting attacked straight away. And I was so annoyed. I couldn't remember the facts and the figures and the stuff I'd looked into 2 or 3 years ago. So I was like, God almighty. And I got a bit frustrated in the conversation, a bit emotionally, I got angry. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
God, because I was annoyed at myself and not be able to articulate why I think what I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I spent the next couple of days remembering why I think what I
I
think.
know. I know.
And I discovered more. I just
Yeah.
discovered more on it. Like, I give you one. I give you
Yeah.
one fact that people are totally not aware of. So over the next 500,000 years, so you're able to model over the next 500,000 years what the temperature change of the Earth would be if humans didn't exist.
Mm.
Right? It's just the planet, and that is based on the planet
Half
where
a
it is in the
million.
solar
Yeah.
system, the sun, because the sun is one of the main influences on
Sure.
the planet of the
Yeah.
planet. The difference between over the next 500,000 years, the change in the average change, so the change in temperature, let's say it could be 30, I can't remember how many degrees, it's 30 or 40 degrees warmer in 500,000 years, right? But whatever it is, the percentage change over that time
Mm.
is only half a degree different if humans
Half
were
a
on the
degree.
planet. Half a degree. The
Yeah.
temperature of the planet is increasing anyway,
Mm.
mainly because of the stage of life the sun is in. As the sun is getting
Yeah.
basically, as the sun is sort of, it's on its arc
We're
down,
coming out of a mini
down a
ice
series,
age as
all
well.
of these
Yeah.
things. And you go,
Yeah.
what? Why are we,
Uh,
why are we being, why are people accepting this?
I just well, yeah, I see it. I mean, I try and bring people with me through lived knowledge. I've had a wind turbine. Doesn't work, folks. Doesn't work. I've had
Not even in
solar
Hereford.
panels. No, not even in Hereford. Yeah, it probably was sited a bit wrong, but and solar panels. Yeah, solar panels do work. They are pretty damn good, but when the sun shines, of course,
And try powering
a
a
fridge.
vehicle off of one of those.
Well, yeah, yeah, no,
A big
well,
vehicle,
a
like a
bit,
ship or a train
or an airplane. Fancy
or an
an
aeroplane. Yeah. Go
airplane.
on getting you.
I
Yeah.
mean, what about battery tanks?
Yeah.
Fancy getting in a battery tank. You know those Abrams tanks
Yeah.
that went into going back to the art story. One of the drivers said to me, they said they take 7 gallons to start up. 7 gallons diesel
It's unbelievable.
just to start the thing up.
Mm.
Boom, and I think it does gallons per mile. Is it gallons per mile? Yeah, I don't
You
know.
know, one of the things I didn't realize,
Crazy.
just randomly off on a tangent, yeah. When I remember when I got given, we got given a Challenger 2 demonstration. I can't randomly.
Yeah.
I think we were in Brecon actually, we were in Salisbury in the Fibber village there, one of the Fibber villages there, and this Challenger 2 came out, and there was this. They were given the demo of how they could move and blah 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 blah, how their features, and one of them was be able to smoke off an area.
Oh right, yeah.
And they smoked off an area, and
What,
the
with
amount
canisters and that, or just exhaust
no,
tubes?
they pour
Yeah.
oil.
Yeah.
I think it's oil. They pour oil directly onto the power cell, the
Yeah, yeah.
engine. They pour
I'll do
oil
it.
directly on, so it just smokes.
Yeah.
Creates shed loads of smoke that comes out.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
thinking,
Well, carbon
my
monoxide
God,
and that, yeah.
my God. Anyway, it wasn't.
Yeah.
That was off the
It
tangent.
is a
But,
crazy world we live in.
so how far off is this? How far off is Do you know where North is from being published?
Well, my publisher wants it. They want to read it. It's going to be.
So it's finished?
It's going to be 4 months. I've got apple trees to plant. I've got to get my stuff in because I've moved all my vegetables off to this. I've got a few acres. They're not down at the cottage, so I've got to get them planted. But in order to get them planted, I want to get the apple trees in first. But then I'll work on it. It's going to take me probably a month solid work to get it, and then probably about 2 weeks before it gets submitted. So probably 6 weeks if I had 6 weeks. And I think it's something I should get out because publishers want 9 months lead up.
You've got one customer right here, mate.
Oh,
I'll be
thank
buying
you.
a copy of that
Thank you.
book for sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
No, I mean it may contain too much. So I mean I kind of want I want to put the. I've got to think of another term for prepping because it scares a lot of people. And survival, I don't like that term. That has too much connotations of SAS survival, or and all that nonsense. Just an educated view and how to run your own life. Like you're saying, keep fit, eat healthy, keep off the saturated fats and the not the saturated fat, the carbs and the sugars, and try and live as healthy as you can and buy local. and just try and enjoy life.
One of the
Keep
best
smiling
things.
more. People don't smile anymore. You know, I mean, it's everybody's grumpy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Well, I mean, excess processed foods and excess carbs is not good
No,
for mental health,
no,
and people are going to laugh at that. It's absolutely
no.
the case in excess.
I'm going to have a steak and I'm going to have eggs
Yeah, 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 exactly,
tonight.
exactly the same. One of the
You know, we're going to have a
one,
lovely steak.
one
I
of the
probably
great
won't be able to eat more than 8 ounces, but I'll make sure it's the best cut, nice
yeah,
ribeye or something.
one of the best things, the best decision I made when it comes to diet. As I've gotten older,
Yeah,
I've become more conscious of it, and I was someone just I would eat anything. My rationale would be I burn these calories off
yeah,
because
yeah,
I'm quite got a good
yeah.
metabolism, but also I smash myself physically.
Do yeah,
So
yeah,
it's I burn it off, and in my mind, it's like that means I can eat anything.
yeah.
Well,
No,
not
don't
necessarily the
work that
case.
way.
One of the best things
Mm,
I ever did was I started minimizing carbs and sugar to the
mm.
point now I eliminate it. I that doesn't mean I won't go to a restaurant, or if I've got to someone's for dinner, or if I'm cooking dinner for my kids, so everyone have a
Yeah,
different diet. I want to have some,
yeah.
it's not like rigid, but predominantly I'm like you, meat and
Eggs. Yeah,
meat and dairy
yeah,
basically,
yeah.
or meat, dairy and greens. And my God,
Same as me.
such
Yeah.
a difference, such a difference. Constant energy levels. I don't get any slump in energy
No,
whatsoever.
no, it's
That
amazing.
is from the
It,
moment I wake up
yeah,
to the moment I go to sleep, whether I've been to the gym or not, I
yeah.
am constant energy levels. Never
That
like that.
is that's all the stuff they tell you not to eat.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I don't dip at all after I've had a big steak.
The thing is, we used to think dipping was normal. I was brought up to
Yeah.
think dipping was normal. Sunday roast, I get a bit sleepy
Oh
after. Dinner,
yeah,
get a bit
yeah,
sleepy after. That is not
yeah.
normal, folks. It's
No,
because you're putting the wrong
it's yeah, you are.
stuff
Yeah, yeah,
in your body.
yeah.
Totally.
I mean, when I go in the supermarket now, I'm there like 5 minutes. Well, 2 minutes. I've gone. I'm down the
Yeah.
I'm down the grocery. It's picking up a bit of fruit. I love watermelon. I mean, I live off watermelon. That's crazy.
Do you eat the pips?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
they all go down. Yeah, but they all come out as well, don't they? They're not digested. And a bit of meat, but I tend to buy because in Herefordshire we've got some great butchers, and two farmers I know have their cows slaughtered locally, and I kind of get into that as well. You pay a bit more. I mean, it's almost
For,
40
for what?
for beef.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm paying almost 40 pound a kilogram for ribeye. But since I only eat about 8 ounces at a time
Mm.
and about 3 eggs,
40 quid a kilogram.
yeah, 39.99.
Jesus.
Yeah, but it's beautiful.
Do you know the best supermarket for meat is?
No,
Let's say the least bad supermarket for meat. Morrison's.
Morrison's, yeah,
Morrison's. Yeah.
But they advertise, don't they? They buy local or something like that.
Yeah, well, I don't know the specifics of it.
Yeah,
Again, I can't remember the reason. I went looking when I got onto this. Right, let's start eating much more meat
yeah,
and having much more dairy. Of all the supermarkets, Morrison's they just have much stronger connections to farms, basically, and
yeah,
as
yeah.
opposed,
Okay,
as
yeah,
in they've got strict measures in place to make sure the places they're getting their meat from are
mm,
basically not. This isn't factory style, factory farmed meat. It's
yeah,
what do they call it? Open range,
yeah.
uh,
Grass fed, cattle grass
grass
fed. Yeah,
fed.
yeah, yeah.
Meat. So Morrison's, yeah, but the other one is raw milk. My God, that stuff's incredible. But it's so hard to get because the regulations on it are so ridiculous
Yeah, I
on
got
raw milk.
friends that go for that. Yeah, I haven't drank.
It's
I
like
haven't.
rocket fuel,
I've probably
mate.
drunk half a pint of milk in the last 18 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
You're not a
yeah.
milk fan?
I don't have any milk because I don't have cereals anymore. And I drink coffee mainly now.
Mm,
My taste buds have gone completely different. I have a cup of tea a month.
right?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Really?
Cup of tea a
Call
month.
yourself a Brit?
Yeah, I mean it's when I pee. Yeah, I think I've got prostate cancer, but I haven't. I just pee
Yeah.
constantly. You know, I pee 6, 7 times a
Have you had a
day.
check?
Eh?
Have you had a
Oh
check?
yeah, I've had a check.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, but that's all part of doing this because I do this intermittent fasting as well,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah, same here.
which is absolutely amazing. I've got a friend that does 3 to 4 days, and I say I can't do that. I don't believe in that.
Days?
Days without only
Oh,
drinking
no.
water. Now that's ridiculous. I said to him, you can't. And I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I think I've got a few years on you. Um, but what I lack in speed is I'm an old plodder. I mean, I can work. I could just keep working.
Hmm.
You know, I said, right, I joked with my daughter. She said, Dad, you're an old git. I'm going to put you in a home, like that. I said, you won't take me alive, girl.
Yeah.
No, she's
Yeah.
good actually, but she jokes around with it. But
Yeah, I intermittent fast, but I never intended to do that.
no, neither did
I
I.
basically I did that, and apologies to
Same as
people who've
me.
heard me say this before. Went to that minimize sugar, minimize carbs,
Yeah.
and then I went to I decided, okay, only eat when I'm hungry, only eat when I need to eat,
Hmm.
and that naturally has gone into this situation
Mm.
where I can have dinner at 5 p.m., 6 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
I won't feel the need to eat until early afternoon tomorrow, and that won't be a hunger. You know this.
Same as
That
me.
won't
It
be a
won't be
crippling
hunger.
hunger.
It's kind of
Yeah.
it's like when you've just done a good workout
Mm.
and everything's up. What do they call it? There's something in it that the feeling good.
Oh, you're not serotonin. You're
Yeah, it's up. And yeah, I mean,
not endorphins.
it is one
Release
of those
hormone
two.
release.
Yeah, it's one of
The
those
feel good
two.
hormones.
Yeah, I mean, driving down here yesterday, I didn't eat until I got into London. In fact, it wasn't until about 7 o'clock. So I'd gone over. I don't. I normally eat about 4 or 5 o'clock, but I know when the summer comes, if I just carry on working, it can be 6, 7 o'clock. I can go 24. I can go a day. That's the most I've been, and I haven't felt hungry. And it's portion size as well. You don't
Mm,
have to have massive plate,
mm.
and I just feel great.
The thing is, the fact that it's called intermittent fasting lends itself to being something that's unnatural. I see it as this is the total. This is the original way that we used to
Yes.
eat. The way that our bodies developed to eat,
Yeah.
and from the how often we eat to the types of
Mm.
foods we eat. And the reality is that the 3 square meals a day is a necessity based on the high carb, high sugar diets.
Mm.
Because you have a sugar or carbs in the morning as that first morning meal, you get cravings for more because of
Mhm.
what the sugar and the carbs are doing
Yeah.
to your
Give
blood
you the
sugar
high,
levels.
don't they? Yeah.
You get a crash, more
Yeah.
food, go to the gym, more food because your body is burning when you're eating like that. Your body is looking to your stomach and in your
Mhm.
your digestive system for energy. When you're
Right.
when you're minimizing the sugars and the carbs, and you only eat when you need to,
Yeah.
then your body is going to your fat deposits for the energy, and your fat deposits are always there. It's got energy on tap,
Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
don't get those cravings. It's like
Yeah.
everyone should. It's one of those. I think everyone should try it. But if
I'm
you,
astonished with it. I
yeah,
didn't believe
yeah,
it at first, and I
yeah.
thought, well, everything they tell you not to eat, get down your grid.
People try it and hate it because they haven't changed what they put in their body. If you ain't gonna try,
Yeah.
if you're gonna try and move to this, the first thing you need to do is wean yourself off the sugar and
Sugars.
the carbs.
100%
The sugar
agree
and the
with you.
carbs.
Yeah.
It is literally a
Yeah.
game changer.
100% right.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that you said something earlier. You get to a point of 16 hours into the fasting, and you don't feel hungry, but you kind of feel the necessity to maybe eat something.
Yeah, it's a
Uh,
different kind of indicator,
It's a
isn't it?
different kind of, yeah.
Your stomach isn't telling you, well, I need food.
Yeah.
Your brain's going, yeah, you need to eat, buddy,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
your energy levels are
exactly.
probably going to start a bit low,
Exactly, yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um,
It's good how we've got round to that, isn't it? It's
I know. We haven't even asked you. I haven't even asked you the questions about the injured Falklands guys yet.
how we doing for time?
We're all right.
Okay.
I said no, we're all right. We've got about 20 minutes left and it's going to
All
fly
right.
by. So
Well, that's cool.
we have got a bunch of questions in here from the platinum subscribers. When I say a bunch of questions, I mean there are a lot of questions.
Okay, well, let's start.
So okay, let's start on the questions from these are all these are all from Coke in the YouTube chat. So all right, let's go from the top in no particular order, apart from going from the top.
Yeah.
Did you serve with anyone who was in the 1983 BBC show The Paras? What did you think of how depot unit life was portrayed?
Yeah, I served with Al Slater. He was one of the instructors down there who unfortunately got killed in Ireland when he came to the regiment, the SAS. I served with Phil Priestley, Elvis, 3 Para, who died a few years ago. Cracking soldier. Yeah, so there was 2. What did I think how it portrayed? Was that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
how do you think the Paras are
Um,
portrayed?
I from what I can recall, it was 1983, wasn't it? Yeah,
83.
I think it was raw, pretty raw and stuff. Yeah, I think it was good. Yeah, yeah, I do.
Okay. Uh,
Sorry, and it was one of the first. I think it was the
I
first,
think it
wasn't
was
it?
the
So the
first. Yeah.
BBC did a good job on it, I believe.
Mm, mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hugh agrees. I'm assuming you said this before. Then Hugh agrees Power Edge is the most masculine, alpha-dominated environment he's been in, and very aggressive, comparatively speaking. Uh, how how did Power Edge and SAS cultures differ in your time? That's a good
Uh,
question.
uh, they didn't. The only difference is, I didn't when I went to the SAS. I didn't salute anymore, and I didn't run around the parade square. Um, that was the only difference, and
Really?
it's shown in the fact that in my time, about 80% came from airborne units. 9th Squadron, the paralogistics, uh, and the three parachute battalions.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. I reckon that's changed over time.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah,
It
yeah,
had
with the
its
Royal Marines in there
yeah,
and
it had
stuff.
its. I think like your era. I interviewed Chris Ryan several years ago,
Yeah.
and Chris Ryan's perception of the culture of Hereford, I'd say, is probably very different to yours. You were a generation before, and then he
No, we
get.
were in the same time.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I thought
yeah.
Chris was in after.
No, same time. Yeah, he came from the
Oh, there's an
TA, didn't
overlap
he?
though, right?
Yeah, there's
Yeah, yeah,
overlap.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah,
yeah. No, I think. Yeah, I think he was in the same culture
yeah. Hmm.
as. Yeah, I mean, drinking culture.
Yeah,
Same as when I was in the Paris.
yeah,
Total drinking culture. Used to go downtown, have a gallon of beer, fight, bag of chips, smash a 10 miler, 6 o'clock in the morning.
yeah. It was the same when
It's
I was
absolutely
there.
crazy what you did.
Yeah, I think it's changed a lot now, and
Yeah.
I think I mean it's probably still a drinking culture there. I'd have to ask, but even well for various
Yeah.
reasons, but it was the same when I was in,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's positives and negatives to that.
There is. I don't. Everybody gets in their car and goes off home, don't they? I mean, I lived downtown. I lived in Aldershot. I mean, a lot of guys did. Yeah.
Okay. In his book, this is from Coke. In his book, Ex-Para, Vincent Bramley claims Paras executed POWs in the Falklands. What do you think of this? And would you report war crimes against enemies? And would you report war crimes against enemies, or would you try to intervene?
I, Vince's three para. I didn't see anything like that. I believe the police went down and spent £3-4 million trying to investigate it and came back with
Oh,
nothing.
did they?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, they did. In my experience at Goose Green, we were in the middle of a massive battle. We came across 20 or so Argies who had surrendered to us. We put them all in a big circle. The officer wouldn't sit down with them. One guy butt stroked him with an SLR, which is a bit different to use an SA-80, a bit more weight behind it. He went down like a sack of shit. We could have quite easily killed them. And and that's a good question, Cope, because out of all my experience in all the wars I've been in, whether it's through the military or through as a civilian or as a private contractor, that particular point in Goose Green, there could have been made a case to kill them all because we were advancing. And that was before we got
The
napalmed.
POWs,
That
yeah.
was before we got napalmed. I mean, you're in the middle of a firefight. It's not like they're behind a hill or on front line. They were there. And about 50 meters to our right, there was the white flag incident where they did kill 3 of our guys, which we didn't know at the time.
Where they were flying a white flag and
They
then
were flying a white flag,
yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, that's one of my. I'd like to put that on record that the guys, I was so pleased that no one shot them. And when I hear of, shooting prisoners, oh my God, look, we were fighting an army, we're in a uniform. The last 20 years has been fighting an enemy in civvy dress. So I can't even equate what I saw in the Falklands to, because they were all in uniform, we knew where the enemy were. My experience in Iraq has told me that anybody with a gun is fair game. And same with Afghanistan, but a little bit different in Afghanistan because they all carry guns, don't they? Well, in my time down there, they did. They all had an AK.
Well, an innocent person tends not to carry a gun if there's soldiers knocking about because they've got common
Yeah,
sense. You know what I mean?
yeah. But I was in civilian dress.
But no, I,
Yeah.
I agree with you. One of the, do you know, have you ever heard of Ben Griffin? Two
No.
para SAS.
Right,
I reckon you know of him.
right.
He's coming back on in June. I
Yeah.
interviewed him in 2018, I think it was. Ben left the SAS citing but basically moral grounds.
Oh, I know. Yes, he made front page news, didn't he?
Yeah, and
Very brave thing to do.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
a postman now up in
Is he?
one of the Scottish Isles.
Is he?
But yeah, he was down. He lived in London up until relatively recently.
Yeah.
But he's a good guy. You know, I call him a friend now. But when he came on to the podcast, we clashed a lot. And because one of the reasons was he was not insinuating, he was saying that if a British soldier was to shoot a civilian, shoot someone they shouldn't shoot in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Northern Ireland, they would get away with it. That was verbatim what he was saying. And we clashed on it because I know, and you know, and he knows that is not the case.
No.
And I shudder to think what experiences he had or how his perception of things has changed since he got out for him to believe that, because it's wholeheartedly incorrect. You know, I know that to be true. And it's one of the things that annoys me about public perception of some members of the public perception of British forces, where there's this idea that we will follow an order no matter what the order is. We will do whatever commander says. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know, one of the major things that is certainly was drilled into me when I was in training, and drilled into me in pre-deployment training for the different operations I did, is, you know, if you are given an order and it is unlawful and you think it's unlawful, you do not have to follow that through. You absolutely do not. You know, and I've spoken about on the podcast, I was given an order that I didn't feel was lawful. I think the person giving me the order thought it was. I did not agree with what should be done, and it involved killing someone, and I refused to do it. You know, and it was a bit of a grey area.
Yeah, you know, it is.
In that situation, I could have done it, and in inverted commas, got away with it. The person giving an order would have thought it was fine. But I didn't think, and I was able to go no, and there was no repercussions on me for that. I went, I'm not doing it. There was no repercussions on me for it whatsoever. So I'm glad, I'm glad you highlighted that point about Goose Green.
To me, it just I go back to that situation, and that sticks in my mind because a minutes later we got napalm. They came around and dropped napalm on us, and they almost dropped it on their own prisoners, and it just went away. It singed my face. It was that close. These two big sort of aircraft fuel drums, but they were napalm, and they just went away like that. I mean, it's incredible. Even after then, we still looked after their wounded. They came back around, and we all shot. And the pilot, he came down so low, he ejected, and he came. The
napalm pilot.
Napalm pilot.
Jesus.
He parachuted right into our
His ass
position.
must have been twitching.
You can't believe this. We're all shooting at him, and someone says, "Don't shoot," because obviously under a parachute.
Yeah.
You know, blokes were like, "Yeah, all right, yeah, we can understand that. We wouldn't like
Yeah.
it." And he drops right into D company position, which is right by us. We're all quite tight. Fucking napalm still burning, and a couple of the blokes start having a go, and then a couple of corporals had to walk him through. This is still in a firefight because the lads wanted to have a go at took a couple of force screws, walked him through, down and put him by the prisoners. And he was a bit cheeky. And then Sid Higginson, who was a sergeant, took his gun off him, sidearm off him, and told him to pick up. There was a young Argie with his leg off above the knee. Oh, he was squealing. Awful. And I can still remember this even with the firefight going on. The battle, not the firefight, the battle. And he picked him up, and the last I saw was these. I turned my back, and they're like the prisoners all marching up the hill towards Darwin Hill while the war's still going on, and this pilot is carrying this lad with the leg off, and kind of with big flappy skin, and I kind of thought, yeah, that's crazy, and we just turned and started fighting again. You know, I mean, it's just
Fucking hell.
it's just had Spanish voices, you know. It's you know, like that film, The Longest Day,
Yeah.
when those Germans walk past the paratroopers on that dry. There's a fence, dry stone wall, and they pass each other. And that's what it reminds me of. Because as a kid, you watch that film and you go, that can't be right. Because you're so tense. And this is what happened. A barbed wire fence about where your Bergen is over there, 6-7 feet away. And there were Spanish voices in there. And you think, oh, fuck it, I'm not going over there. I'm not going over that barbed wire fence. I'm going to concentrate on myself. I'll let somebody else deal with it. But they were popping up all over the place. But the prisoner thing, it's a no-no for me.
Yeah. What should the UK military and government have done differently to ensure less people took their lives after the Falklands?
Have a proper setup. That's not just for the Falklands vets. We didn't have the decompression that they have now, which is most important. But to be quite frank with you, I don't think they care. I really don't think they care. They've got more things to worry about than old veterans. Just look at it. COVID came. They all put the veterans, took them off the streets, put them in hotels. COVID went, they're back on the streets. There was last year, I don't watch terrestrial TV much, but there was on a Sunday, it happened to be on a Sunday, and there was some segment on the news that were praising the British Legion, Royal British Legion, because the government, our money, taxpayer, giving them £5 million. And the retired brigadier was like, oh yes, this is fantastic. £5 million. You think that's a drop in the ocean?
Drop in the ocean.
It's pathetic. No, they don't do enough. They will never do enough until you change the government or the perception of the armed forces, because they don't like us. It's as simple as that. That's my opinion. They don't like us. If they liked us, they'd help us more.
Yeah, I think the only time they'll change things if it's financial incentive. You know, you look at a lot of the things that are being brought in to reduce reduce hearing loss incidents, for example. There'll be TBI stuff coming in soon. To reduce hearing loss is a prime example. All the money spent on the hearing defense that people get. That is not because they care about people's hearing. It's because of the money it's saving them through lawsuits and compensation and all the rest of it.
Okay. Well, it's all about the money, isn't it? I mean, in my day, you know the 84 Carl Gustav? I mean, we had those little earplugs you put in there. You know, and I remember being in the regiment in the killing house. We were firing off hundreds of 9mm rounds, and we only had the small. They upgraded to the little yellow ones.
Yeah, the yellow.
You know, I mean, you just think, just crazy. You'd probably fire off more 9mm rounds, probably 500 easy a day. Probably most soldiers wouldn't fire 9mm off in a whole 3-year period, would they? Short term of the soldiers, career.
What's the favorite book you've written? Which is your favorite?
I've got two. Bring Me the Answer, Saddam, because that, to me, I did everything. I even narrated it myself. I even did the audio book.
Yeah.
But the one I'm kind of really like is Goose Green. And that's mainly probably because it's not about me. It's about my brothers in arms and every other aspect that helped us during the battle for Goose Green, not just the Paras. It was a collective thing. It just wasn't the Paras. It takes more than just the Paras to win a battle like that against all the odds. So, yeah, for fun and laughter and enjoyment, Bring Me the Arse. A book I'm really particularly proud of is Goose Green. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to the next one, mate. I'm looking forward to the
Yeah.
next one. Coke in the comments here on YouTube is saying he's going to be buying your books as well.
Oh, lovely.
Um,
Thank you, Coke. Remember to leave me a review.
Oh yeah, I need to
Yes.
leave it.
Yeah.
In fact, Coke, I've got 2 Goose Green books here that I will get. That Nigel's very kindly going to sign, and they will be. I'll do a giveaway for those
Yeah, yeah.
random names out of a hat. So if
Happy
Coke
to,
doesn't
yeah.
win one, he'll be buying a book off you, buying
Yeah.
Goose Green off you. But is there anything we haven't covered that you wanted to cover today, Nigel? Spud?
No, I think no, I think that's we've done. I don't know how long it's been.
In total, we've done about 2.5 hours.
Okay.
2 hours 20, something like
Yeah.
that. I did have one question. If you got time, 10 or
Yeah.
15 minutes to spend on this, then we can knock it on the head.
Yep.
That's all right. And the question was that we I think we mentioned it in the icebreaker at the beginning of this, and you were saying that after the Falklands, when it came back, there was some sort of difference in the way that the injured reg blokes were mixing, socializing, being treated or treating people around them, and the uninjured were treated. Can you explain that for me?
It's only my observation. I'm not saying it happened with any, because it's the injured tend to keep themselves to themselves, because during the Falklands campaign, as soon as you got injured, you were off the battlefield, and there's that survivor's guilt that a lot of them had. The survivor's guilt.
Because they didn't see the battle through.
They didn't see the battle through. They wonder why they got injured. They're good soldiers. They didn't, especially the junior NCOs, like the lance corporals, and which is a funny old rank, but the full screws who really look after their men, felt guilt about the fact that they couldn't see the first battle through, and really more guilt because they weren't there with their men for the second battle. And that stuck with from what I've found out and listened to and spoke to over the years, that the wounded tend to stay more, keep in touch with each other. I got another wounded friend that was, oh God, he had the rocket launchers. We were so close to the rocket launchers they had on these children's swings at the schoolhouse in Goose Green that, Jock, bless him, he stood up, and it was chaos. It was mortars. They were dropping mortars on us and stuff like that all over. He stood up a little bit, turned himself, and he got the discarding salvo of the multi-barrel rocket launcher straight across his chest, ripped his lung out, and he was there. He was really badly injured, and he's always on about when he went on the boat, the medical boat they had down there, the Canberra. They turned into and all the paras kept together, yeah, and each bed had these berries on, and Jock was woke up, and they'd put an RG prisoner, the injured guy next to him, and Jock went mad, and so they changed it all, and they formed a real close bond, and that's still to this day. A lot of people have killed themselves as well over the years, taking their own life. Terrible. But that'd be an interesting sort of to write a paper on that, on the injured sticking together, and with this survivor's guilt, which we know exists. I mean, it exists in every campaign.
Well, I think it's an extension of that shared lived unusual experience, right? There are subsections, so even just to experience or be part of any form of battle, it's very rare, relatively speaking, very rare. And then to one thing to get through and survive, another thing to be part of 2 big battles like that, and then it's an even smaller section that get injured and come out of it, or come out of it injured, but the psychological impact of that is something I would never want to experience. One of the reasons that they would have stuck together like that. I think it was different this time on, but
quite possibly, yeah.
I've actually got RG family.
Have you? Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually got Argentine family. Yeah.
And, well, I mean, in Goose Green, the book at the end of it, I mean, there's a nice bit about people say to me, what do I think of the Argentinians? I says, well, the World Cup, one of the World Cups when it was France and Argentina, I supported Argentina. So, I got no malice towards them. It's just that I don't have a lot of people do. They haven't kept in contact. They've reopened contact with Facebook and the social media. but I don't feel the need to do that. You know, I just don't do. But some guys do. I know some blokes in the Paris do, and there was talk of them doing a documentary, and which is great. But not for me. You know, it's for no other reason than, you know, I tend to say forget it. I just, you know, I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah. How can people follow what you're doing and find out what you're up to? Look out for the next book from you.
Yeah, I've got a website, nigelely.com, but it's not all that active. It's only got my books. I'm not a big social media. Um, yeah, I need to get a grip of that.
Nigel Ely. Yeah, Nigel
Yeah,
Ely.
nigelely.com.
Is that where the new book will be announced then there?
Yeah, I put the new book on there. And yeah, I'm not a big social media person, although I do go on social media. I don't make a lot of comments. Yeah,
No, no worries.
yeah.
It's been a real pleasure. I'm
Yeah.
glad we got it done.
Well, lovely.
Glad we got it done.
It's great, yeah.
And good luck with the book. Looking forward to
Yes.
reading it. And I think we're a spirit animal in a lot of the ways of the way we're living and eating.
Yeah, well, that's.
I'm going to get a lot of advice for that book, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I just hope it's going to be a good read, but because there's also living in the countryside of it. I mean, look, trouble just follows me. For example, I've had the armed police called out on me 3 times from camp. Nothing to do with me, but it's just, you know, it's crazy. It's a crazy world in that deepest Herefordshire.
Yeah.
All I'm trying to do is live my life, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope to get the. You've driven me to sort of get a semi-deadline for the summer, maybe. So I'm gonna get my apple trees planted.
Good. I'm glad. We're good luck with it, mate. Thanks
Lovely.
again.
Well, thanks for the invite. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No worries. Oh, and thank you for the subscribers, the live streamers. Cheers, folks. Catch you on the next one tomorrow.